And she also had a boyfriend as a colonel, and he left a lot of whiskey there and everything. And I sure helped her to drink it. And there was not much food around, you know. Food was scarce. Somebody said, there's an underground place down the street here. And I said, yeah. He said, what have they got? He said, eggs and chips, French fries. So I went down. And it cost me $54 to get 2 eggs and 10 French fries. And you didn't get 11 French fries. You got 10. And I bought 2 more, again, another batch. So it was $108 it cost me for 4 eggs and 20 French fries.
By August 1944, it looked like the Allies were getting the upper hand in the battle for Normandy. U.S. armored divisions sped through France, liberating village after village, welcomed by elated French civilians. George McGuire remembers their relief vividly.
Sometimes we were the first Allied soldiers that they saw. And it was just amazing, I mean, the effect it had on them. They had been under the Germans for 4 years, and now at last they were free. If we stopped our vehicles and got out, I mean, they would just climb all over us. You just can't imagine how glad they were. It made you feel wonderful.
As U.S. troops stormed unopposed toward Paris, Canadian and British allies were ready to break out of Normandy and push the enemy back. But the Germans launched a counterattack. Reinforcements were brought in to try to surround them in what became known as the Falaise Pocket. After only 3 days' leave, Bill Edwards was rushed back to the battlefield.
After our so-called rest, we were then moved to Falaise Pocket. Our division was given the charge of squeezing a part of the Falaise Pocket. It was pretty liquid fighting. It was pretty fast moving.
As the fighting intensified, casualties were mounting. After taking wounded men to a first aid tent, 18-year-old former shop apprentice Frank Rosier was heading back to his unit.
Now to this edge, as near as you, except this young German boy, my age, 18, 19. We're like cowboys, we went for our guns. I carried a sling up that time, here, and killed him. And I sat on the ground and cried and was sick. I killed a human being. And as I talk to you now, I can see that ginger-headed boy, some mother's son. You know, and that's horrible.
Frank had already lost 2 brothers in the war. Being away from home was starting to take its toll.
You think about home all the time. Your mum and dad think about them all the time, and it's a strange thing. Your family becomes your platoon. You depend upon your mate, and you're such a dependent on each other.
The men had been fighting for almost 2 months. Soldiers were becoming increasingly weary. Basic survival was another battle altogether.
I have this photograph of some of our chaps milking a cow, because anybody who'd been involved in farming before the army took pity on a cow that needed milking. And they got some fresh milk. Saw a chicken farm which had been deserted. And I had a duck with a blouse full of eggs, and a couple of chickens we looked over, and proudly going back to the rest of the platoon, we're going to have a feast that night. What one hit me there, came up through my face, hit the skull and came out. And it didn't knock me out. And I sat around more concerned with the yoke and running down the blouse and into my trouser legs and trying to tighten the belt on my blouse to stop the yoke going down my legs. And I walked back to the unit. As I approached them, the lads saw my face and came running towards me. And I went out like a light, and I was unconscious for 10 days.
One of the most common injuries on the battlefield were shrapnel wounds. They cost Frank his right eye. He was evacuated back to England shortly after, unlike his brothers, who were both killed in action.
My dad came there, and he looked down and told the bed that he was 6'4", my father, ex-merchant seaman, and not a big lad. And he stood there with tears in his eyes, and he cried. He said, "At least I got one boy back," he said.
The battle against the German counterattack in the Falaise continued to rage. The generals called in airstrikes to halt the enemy's advance. The Allies sent in squadrons of Typhoon aircraft, equipped with machine guns, bombs, and rockets. One of the pilots was 21-year-old Canadian John Thompson.
Our wing commander went out on a weather recce to see whether the weather was suitable for rocket firing Typhoon. And he came back and landed, and he probably taxied right into the intelligence tent. He was so excited. And he said, "God," he said, "there's thousands of tanks lined up over there and all kinds of light armored vehicles and men all heading out eastward." And he said, it'll be a great day for us. We just flew constantly that day. Our job would be to strafe the German emplacements and we soften up things and make their casualties a little less, hopefully, and make it easier to advance. Anybody on the ground, it sounded like an express train coming. When you got too close to the ground, you started to pull out. Personnel head that exploded on impact. And there was an armored piercing head that would go right through the armor and explode inside. Some guy said, "Well, I aimed at the turret and I aimed at the tracks," but I kind of take that with a grain of salt. I mean, I aimed at the tank.
generals thought these airstrikes would be a quick solution to the counterattack. But for men on the ground like Patrick Delaforce and Ron Titterton, it was a different story.
Our single biggest problem was the RAF. They bombed and machine gunned us every day.
When we came over in 2s or 3s and anything we saw moving, they attacked. Although we've got a big white star on the company car and the England colours.
It's pretty hard to tell whether a tank is a Panzer or a Sherman at 6,000 or 7,000 feet. You get hyped up, and you don't really think you're firing at people or killing people. At least I didn't. It never entered my mind that I was killing anybody.
They meant well, but they were just bloody careless.
From D-Day, 6th of June till the 18th of August, there was 151 Typhoon pilots shot down and killed. Now that's a lot of people. We had 3 guys from South Africa come in one morning, 3 replacement pilots, and by that night, only 1 left. The other 2 were dead. I didn't know their names.